Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight we're going to paint a sparrow. This is a nice little sparrow sitting on a branch. And we're going to start off with a smaller brush. This is a number 2 Winsor Newton. I'm going to just get my brush a little bit wet the paper just ever so slightly. I'm going to start with some lighter colors. As I'm looking at this bird, he's got just a bit of a tan or taupe maybe undertone. I'm going to use an ochre for that. Here we go. Put some ochre on top of his head and right into his beak. Just going to use some straight Payne's gray. I'm going to gray that or water that down a little bit. And we're going straight into some Van Dyke brown for his feathers. He's got a very nice group of feathers on him. Here we go, right down onto his wing. We're going to draw some pin feathers on there in just a little bit. His wing is nice and brown, almost a solid brown compared to the rest of his body, which is much lighter in color. Here we go. I'm just spreading some water on. I want my colors to be able to flow across his body here. There we go. Let's just get that on there. Oh, he's got a little bit of shadow underneath him. I'm going to put that on now. Anywhere that I think he's got a shadow on his body, I'm going to put a little bit of this Payne's gray. I'm going to use as an undercoating for his body now. I'm going to mix up a little lighter tan, a yellowish tan color. I'm going to use that under there as his body color. It's going to lighten up a little bit as it dries, so it'll be fine. Here we go. I want these colors just to blend around a little bit with the water that I've put down. And I'm just filling in some space on his body. Just where I think he's got some feathers, got some nice color. I'm going to drop that on. Okay, right around his eye, he's got some nice brown colors. I'm going to start to go back and put on these browns, these darker colors that are going to define the shape of the bird. Here we go. Just the bottom of the beak, I'm going to set off by making it a slightly different color from the top. And here we go. His tail's a little darker back there behind everything else. I'm just using a Van Dyke brown to put that in. Maybe a little bit of ochre with it. And I want that to lighten as it goes away from his body. So I'll add a little bit more ochre and a little bit more of my yellow. There we go. I've got a tree branch that goes in front of his tail, so I'm going to not paint over top of that. All right, I'm just going to add a few extra details to him. Let me come in. I've grabbed a 00 brush here to get some detail, and I'm going to paint his eye, remembering to leave a little white for a reflection in there. That white will give him a lot of life on his eye as we see it later. Here we go, and I'm going to darken the crown of his bill just a little bit, just to make it stand out ever so slightly. There we go. The bottom is in shadow. It's just a bit darker. There we go. That beak really stands out now. Very nice. Just blending that. It's a nice transition of color from the dark right on the top of his beak all the way through the bottom. And now I can go in and with little strokes, tiny little strokes, I can begin to put in the feathers on his head, right around his eye. And these little strokes are defining the shape of the bird's head and really his whole body. So we're just going to put in a whole series of these. There we go. Some under his chin. And here go his pin feathers. Just going to draw these on a series of lines, running the length of his feathers. There we go. And now I just need to add enough feathers to give his body some contour and definition. He's a plump little robin. Oh, I'm sorry, robin. A plump little sparrow. So we're just going to find places that we think these feathers ought to be and drop them in. Here we go. Just every so often. Now I'm adding in these beautiful long tail feathers, just some striping along there to give the indication of the feathers. I don't want to use blue to add shadows, so I'm just going with a little extra of my brown, a little Van Dyke brown in there. All right, continuing to add little feathers, little strokes here and there, little spots along his neck and his chest. Will add a lot of definition to what this bird looks like, just using the reference photo to see where they might need to go and what the shape of his body might be. All right, I'm just darkening his eye a little bit more. I want his eye to be nice and dark. I really want his eye to stand out. So I've put on a second coat of paint. I'm not using a black. So I am using a Payne's gray, and I'm using it straight out of the bin to make it nice and dark. Okay, I'm mixing up a bit of an orange color now. A slightly pinkish orange color. These are going to be his legs and his feet, or this is going to be his legs and his feet. I've got them already drawn out, so all I need to do is put a little color on them. Here they go, grabbing right around the branch that he's standing on or sitting on. I just need to figure out which one of these curves on my drawing are his feet, actually. And I think I've got them. Okay, I'm going to make a nice yellowy green color for the little bits of branch that are little bits of leaves that are starting on this branch. There they are. Coming to view, I want to start with a nice yellowy green. If I need to add a little shadow or darker color onto them, I can come back with a little greener green or a little bluer green and put those on. It will make the yellow green stand up like it's in the light, and it will look very nice. So I'm just dropping on a few bits of green here. There we go. I'm going to mix up a little bit of a darker green, just putting a little cobalt blue in there to make a bit of a darker green for some shadowing. All right, it's time to put in our branch already. So I'm making a nice greenish brown. This is, if these leaves are small and tiny, this must be springtime, which means this branch is growing. I just want to give it a slightly green tint. And just laying that color in. Putting a little knob where the leaves start to grow. And a little bit of darker color there to add interest and shadow. No need to be too detailed here. It's not the main focus of the picture. And we're going to add a little bit of detail to it later anyways. Just a shadow side to this. We're just blocking in a little bit of main color here. Alright. Going back to just touch these leaves ever so slightly a bit more. Good. Alright, a bit of a darker color. Here comes our shadow line on these. Anything that's on the underside that's a part of that twig, we're just going to give it a little shadow. Just touching the paint on the bottom, we'll let it blend all the way up automatically. We'll have almost nothing to do with it. Okay. Let's see. I need to darken his wing a little bit. It's getting lost on the side of his body along with his tail. If I just darken that a little bit, it's going to help it to stand out. There we go. That's all I need to do. Okay, so I've got a lot of yellow colors in the foreground. The bird's got a lot of yellow in it. The leaves have some yellow in the green. The twig has yellow with the brown, and the green has yellow in it. So I need to make my background something that will make that stand out a little bit. I'm going to use purple. I'm going to try to vary my purple, a little bluer in some places, a little more red in some places. But in general, it's going to be a purplish background. And here we go. I've switched to an angle shader. It's the same as a flat brush, only it's a little easier for me to get into some tight spaces with it. And again, just like other paintings, I'm just going right around what I've already painted and using quite a bit of water. I'm letting that paint be really as wet as it wants to be so that it will all flow together and form one big uniform mass. Not uniform, I guess is not the right word, but one giant area. The blues and the reds are going to come together. Here we go. Now's the first time we can really see it around the green. Should help the yellow in those stand out. And you can see I turned the brush over just to use the very pointed edge of it there, and there the flat side. Angle shader's a nice brush in that you can get to some really tight areas with it, but if you turn it on its side, you can still use it like you would a flat brush and put a lot of paint down in a very short amount of time. So here we go, right around that beak. Might have been a little bit better had I used something just a bit different than that blue right next to the gray, but that's fine. We'll deal with it. Off we go. You see, I just put down a lot of color with the body of that angle shader, even though it's got the tipped edge. There we go. Just pulling through. All right, I've switched to my number 2 round brush just to get in these tiny areas. I need something just a bit smaller than I can do with the angle shader. Keeping the colors similar. Just filling in that area. And now that I've filled in that area, I think I've lost his feet. I think I'm going to put in a little bit more color on those. Let's see, something. Just going to mix a little bit up. There we go. Perfect. Let me put a little bit of highlight on those. Not highlight. A little bit of extra color on those so we can see that they're there, and that will just about do it for us. I hope you enjoyed this painting, a quick painting of Sparrow. There she is. I think it's a good representation of a sparrow. Please subscribe to my channel and check back again later. There it is. I enjoyed painting with you this evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.